My sister is completely and utterly obsessed with my ex-boyfriend and the relationship that I had with him. She has taken this obsession about my ex-boyfriend beyond any extreme I could have imagined. So I had no choice but to go no contact with my sister, and I haven't spoken to her in 6 years. Then, 6 years later, my sister and my mom organized an intervention to try and surprise me and catch me off guard, and they brought my ex-boyfriend to the intervention, even though I've been married for years at this point. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit that bell to turn on notifications. Here's some background. I started dating my brother's best friend when I was 16 years old. We were together until I graduated high school when he proposed and I rejected it. There was a lot of drama with my family asking me to reconsider because we could have a long engagement or make a promise to reconcile. My relationship with my brother, who is 36 years old, suffered for a while, but the one with my sister, who's 32, never recovered. She was sure my ex was the best fit for me, and it became unbearable when she started dating my ex's brother. My ex was invited everywhere by my siblings, even to some family holidays. But I didn't say anything since he was their friend too. That is, until my sister started to push for us to get back together. My sister did everything from trying to get us on blind dates to making us share a room during holidays. No matter the occasion, my ex was invited to it. After a while, I had enough and I asked my parents to intervene. They were clear with my siblings and stopped inviting my ex to things or allowing him to tag along so much. It was slightly better, but while my brother backed off, my sister didn't. It all came to a crash when I met my husband during a semester abroad. He was from another university, but the same country, and we just clicked. It was magical for me, and we got engaged after dating for about a year. My family was very happy for me, except my sister. She kept insisting that I was in the honeymoon phase and will grow out of it. I clearly didn't, and after many, can't express how many's, fights and attempts to reunite me with my ex, I simply let her know that if she pulled anything again, I will stop talking to her. What does she do after that warning? Makes me her maid of honor and requests I spend all my time with the bridal party, aka my ex, and sets one of her friends as my husband's date. We didn't realize until we were at the reception and the poor girl tried to make a pass at my husband. My sister said that since we're not married, it was okay to explore things with other people. I left the party and the next day I spoke with my parents and brother and explained that while I won't make them choose, I will not talk to my sister ever again, and if they try to fix stuff between us, I will simply cut contact with them too. My mom was devastated and even tried to negotiate, but my dad and my brother said that they would respect my decision, and apart from 2 attempts from my mom, I haven't spoken, written, or anything with my sister in the past 6 years. My sister has tried everything to reconcile with me, from gifts to tantrums, but I simply don't talk to her at all. If we are at a family event or dinner, I simply act like she doesn't exist. At first, she made snarky remarks or tried to create drama, but since nobody backed her up, she gave up. She did have a meltdown when she was informed she was invited to my wedding, but would not be a part of any preparation. My brother says he feels guilty for going along with it for so long, and his relationship with my ex has suffered since my ex, they still talk, but they're not as close anymore. So that's all the backstory. Here's the issue. My mom's birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and I finally announced we are expecting our first child. This is not the first grandchild, but it's still the first granddaughter. Everyone was very happy except my sister. My mom noted that and asked me for tea the other day. My sixth sense told me not to go, but I wanted to be positive. The first thing I noticed when I arrived was my sister's car. Then as I entered the door, there was my sister, her husband, my ex, and my ex's mother-in-law. They wanted to have an intervention since my childish tactic has gone on for so long. My ex said that he was trying to be romantic, but he understands I couldn't appreciate it. His mom said I was just hurting my sister for wanting the best for me, and she apologized already, so I need to forgive her. I was just sending texts to my family, dad, brother, husband, and looking at my mom in disbelief. My brother-in-law had the balls to tell me that I was a hurtful person and I needed to learn how to act like an adult since I'm having a baby now. Then my mom began reading a letter about how hurt she was that her daughters weren't close. My sister was wrong, but she was well-intended, etc., etc. Then my sister read her letter and began crying and telling me basically another version of what the rest did. I said nothing. to anybody. I just sat there until my brother arrived. He was angry beyond anything I've ever seen before. He grabbed my stuff and told them all he was really disappointed and disgusted. We went outside and sat in his car until my dad and husband arrived. By then, I was just sobbing, and he kept saying sorry. I'm unsure what happened in there, but I sent everybody except my mom an email with my lawyer's number info on it and stated, I don't wish to be contacted by any of them ever again, and if they do, I will go to the police. Nobody has contacted me, but I know from my dad, my mom and sister are hysterical. They told him they hope to repair things and for my sister to be able to be in my baby's life, maybe possibly being a godmother. My dad is staying with my brother at the moment. They support me, but some others in the family don't. I've even had mutual friends call me since they are worried about my sister's well-being and keep asking me what happened since she is now going by the narrative that my husband is keeping me away from my family. I hate having my business in public, but I did go the public route and posted a long Facebook post about everything that happened. My sister, brother-in-law, and ex are being dragged, which even if it wasn't 100% intended, I feel is deserved. Now, my mom has been inconsolable, which does make me feel a bit bad, but not as bad as she made me feel with her little intervention. I agreed to have a talk with her a couple of days ago and laid the ground rules for any possible further interaction, including therapy, family therapy, clear boundaries, no sharing information about me with my sister, and separate holidays. But most importantly, if she ever pulls anything like this again, she will for sure be cut off. She feels this is too much, but she's willing to do it. She thought it meant immediate access to baby news and it is all solved, but I told her it's a process and she needs to prove that she has improved. My brother and dad refuse to talk to my sister and they keep apologizing for not stopping it earlier. We've forgiven them since they were able to move on and grow. My husband supports whatever I decide, but my mother-in-law is unsure cutting my mom's access to her granddaughter is the way to go, but says it is ultimately my decision. I'm torn about what to do with my mom. So before you write comments with any advice you might have, here's a little bit more context to give you the full picture. My ex and I broke up when I was 18 years old. He is 37 years old now. The reason for our breakup was that I didn't want to get married or engaged. My sister's insistence comes from the fixation of wanting the both of us to marry brothers and being best friends. My mom has always been so nice to my husband, but I'm beginning to think it was all just a facade, which makes me very sad. My ex has been with people since a breakup. He also has 2 kids with another ex of his, but he's never been married. My sister says that is a very romantic thing to do since he has only ever wanted to marry me. I should also mention his obsessive behavior is not only with me. I know from the grapevine he was very similar with the mother of his children, but now is refocusing on me because my sister is encouraging it since she, quote, needs his help on getting back in my good graces so she can be a good aunt. My brother did start to cut him off when I told my parents I was very uncomfortable with my ex around me all the time. I was living away for college, but would visit my family during breaks. He also made a very big effort to make my husband feel welcome, which deteriorated his relationship with my ex even more because he felt betrayed by my brother. Nowadays, my husband is one of my brother's closest friends and he only speaks with my ex when it is about our nephew, my sister's son, or to just not be rude. Both of my parents seem to be supportive of me not wanting to be around my ex so much, but I guess only my dad was in agreement. On the day of the tea party, my mom told him that she was making me my favorite tea and sweets, but he couldn't stay since we would have quality time together. My dad left to go with my uncle since he thought it was a nice sentiment from my mom. He is very pissed off. My husband tried very hard with my sister when they met, but now he just ignores her and believes she is mentally unwell. We don't know if she is or not. Still, there is no excuse for how she behaves. They invited the ex and his mom because they thought it would be good for me to face the root of my issues with my sister, or at least that's their official version. That's what they tell me. Also, we are not Indian, not really religious. My husband and I are from the same race. There is also no wealth disparity between my ex and my husband. If there is, it would be in the favor of my husband. Lastly, my sister-in-laws, both my brother's wife and my husband's sisters, are enraged about the situation. My husband and his sisters will be talking with their mom about her comments. My brother and his wife are considering going no contact with my mom permanently. In the meanwhile, they will not allow her to see my nephews for a bit. The more that I read, the more that I think I have to go no contact with my mom for the sake of my kid. My husband is heartbroken to think that all their interactions were faked between him and my mom, but says he's even more enraged she made me cry and doubt that I was a good person. I realize there are still countless conversations to have with my family about my mom, but I will definitely be going for a restraining order against my sister and my ex. ex. So that's where everything started. If we fast forward into the future to see how this all unravels, here's what happened. The states of my family so far. I had a conversation with my mother, but she insists she knew best. I am a bad person and she will be getting grandparents' rights or even custody. I am nothing, what she says, but I still panicked, so we sent her a letter about it. My dad moved out indefinitely. He told her that he could not sign on her terrorizing his kid. My brother and his wife decided to also go no contact. I know that it seems very sudden, but I think I undersold the level of despair I had about the intervention. My husband told them afterward they had to think very well about what they appreciated and to be kind and receptive to everything, but would not raise a kid in a toxic environment, which is reason number 327,000 why I love my husband. My husband is very heartbroken about my mom and her fakeness. He says she will never get anything from him. That is as much revenge goes here. My husband and sisters talked to my mother-in-law about her comments and made her understand why it was very out of it. As many of you assumed, she is a very loving mom from a loving family. My dad and brother keep apologizing for any role they played in this. My dad can't believe it got to this point. He says it's surreal for him. Regardless, they support me no matter what, and they say that they are willing to help me fight whatever ridiculous fight my mom or sister put up. The sister's actions are so perplexing. The only shred of reasoning of why we get that she might be obsessed with the ex-boyfriend and her sister being together is that she is with his brother and has kids with her brother. But why does she care so much that both sisters are dating both brothers? There's got to be something more there, like some sort of weird nostalgic desire or something. Something has got to be going on to make this so important to the sister. It's never really explained, but that's all we have to go off of. I don't know, maybe some of you guys know somebody who is really fixated on this concept of two brothers marrying and having kids with two sisters that are related, but I've never met anybody that's really cared about that ever. Most of the time, interventions seem to go terribly wrong. The only times they ever maybe might seem to work is when the people that are organizing the intervention are doing it in such a selfless way that they're truly trying to help the person that they're doing the intervention to. But in this case, when you really break it down and you think about it, they're all doing it for their own selfish interest. Not one of them really cares about the happiness of the OP. They care about their own relationship to the OP and having access to this future baby. I mean, maybe in some small way that's a secondary goal, but really they're doing it for themselves. And they probably don't even realize that, which is probably why the OP is even more upset about this whole situation. She says in the update post that she undersold the level of despair that she had after the intervention, which is probably because it was so obvious what their motivations were and intentions were in front of her eyes, but that didn't come across as clearly when it was all explained after the fact. But I see why she would feel like that after that. So this story was an odd one, but if you were in this strange situation, how would you even begin to handle it? Could you go 6 years without talking to your sibling because of a situation like this? And if so, where would you go from here after the intervention? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for not wearing a wedding ring and making my coworker think that I'm single? I'm a 30-year-old female. I started working at a company recently. I get along with most of my coworkers, but I've been having some issues with this guy, Morgan. Morgan, from what I understand, is what everyone calls the handsome guy in the office. He dated two of his coworkers and hit on several others. He seemed friendly when we talked. He seemed respectable, and he never asked questions outside of work. He offered to buy me lunch and kept sending me funny memes and stuff on the internet. It felt nice, but it was a bit too much, so I asked that he stopped, and he did. He started sending me pictures of himself that were inappropriate. I texted him saying that I'm married and that he was being inappropriate. He texted saying I was lying about being married to get him to back off. Then he went on about how nice and attractive he is and how I'm trying to act like I don't like him to get him to try harder. I felt frustrated, especially after he kept sending me pictures. A few days ago, he sent me a picture of the danger zone and he told me what to do with it. I decided to let my husband deal with this. He sent him back a text saying, "Sorry, bud, small objects are a choking hazard for her." Then blocked him. The other day, he came into the office looking furious and confronted me about misleading him by not having a wedding ring on when I'm married. I said I didn't need to prove anything to anybody, and I didn't lead anybody on. He said he was trying to get close to me and that I should have told him that I was married from the get-go. I said I was sorry, but he maybe shouldn't have tried to enforce a relationship with anyone, regardless if they were in a relationship or not. He said that my husband and I were rude and offensive, and then he rushed out. Other coworkers said that Morgan was a jerk, but I too bear the blame for not having my wedding ring on and being somewhat misleading. I said I don't think I owe anyone an explanation and I refuse to apologize for what happened just to keep the peace in my office. Am I really the jerk for not wearing my wedding ring? This is so dumb it even has to be a question. Regardless of her situation, she said no, which he's interpreting as some sort of weird playing hard to get way, but she put it in writing, stop doing this, stop it. He did stop it, and then he for some reason came back again and went even harder the second time. Since they were in a work environment, a lot of people immediately suggested going to HR. I assume that would help, but from what people have said before, HR doesn't always solve everything, but at least starting there is probably the best move. One of the top comments said, he is harassing you at the workplace, and the excuse was that I wouldn't have harassed you if I knew that your danger zone was claimed by a different man, and that is disgusting. Let me know what you would do if you or your significant other was in a situation like this where the person at work didn't believe you because you didn't have a wedding ring on. And jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for laughing hysterically after my husband called me a housewife and then I embarrassed him in front of his coworkers? My husband invited his new coworkers over for dinner. When they arrived, he introduced me by gesturing at me and saying, "This is Mrs. Smith." He didn't even say my first name, the housewife. I looked at him for a second and then I started laughing hysterically. I then said, "No, honey, I work full time and yes, I still act like a housewife when I'm home because you simply can't bother to help." His coworkers were staring at him as he tried to laugh and change the subject and ask what they wanted to drink. Dinner went super awkward with him giving me looks and stares. Once the guests left, he blew up saying I embarrassed him by laughing like a lunatic and then making the comment I made in front of his new coworkers and ruining his image. I told him he was wrong to lie about my status and deny my degree to begin with. He said I could have talked to him about it privately later, but not like this, and making his coworkers think that he's useless. He stormed off and has been quiet the entire night. Was I out of line? Was I the jerk for laughing hysterically after my husband called me housewife and embarrassing him in front of his coworkers? I'm trying to think of why he would say that in the first place. The only thing I can really come up with is that maybe he thinks it's cool to have a housewife, or it's a good look that he would have a housewife, but clearly the OP, the wife, is not on the same page at all. She had to correct him in front of everyone by saying, "No, honey, I work full time, and yes, I still act like a housewife because you simply can't bother to help." So it was a weird move to say that in the first place, but I wonder if this is something they've talked about before. Maybe he is proud that she does housewife duties. I don't really understand why he would say this in the first place. There's not enough context here to really know exactly why, but if this was you and your significant other said this about you to their new coworkers, how would you handle it? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. Listen to the next story by hitting the playlist link at the top of the description. And if you are a streamer or plan to be a streamer one day, use the music that is linked in the description. It's free and it's copyright free for your live streams wherever you decide to stream. But either way, thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you guys next time.